Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. So today we'll be discussing the Codable protocol. It is one of the most important topic um, and very widely used by the developers in Swift. So before jumping into Codable, I'll just take you through the old parsing technique and then I will move to the Codable protocol. We'll discuss the coding keys and then also we'll discuss the key decoding strategy. And in the end, I will show you one inconsistent JSON example in the playground, which is basically non-strongly typed. And how do we handle such JSONs with the help of codable containers? We are going to see this all. The video is a bit long, but I would request you to stick around. And if somebody is new, this is going to help you to build up your base and have an understanding that how codable protocol works. So let's see you in the project. I will be creating one Xcode project. So let me name this project as Codable Protocol. Create. This would be a storyboard project. So before we step into the project, just to give an overview that we are not going to show any kind of architecture here because we are going to talk about and see how codable, specifically the encodable and decodable protocol works and where they are required. So before we step into these codable protocols, I would like to show you one file which I have in my desktop. Let me add that file here. Okay. So if you look at this file, this will make you remember some old ways to parse the JSON, or maybe many of the people might be still using it. So this is JSON serialization. This is how we used to serialize the data and then parse it by iterating through the data and then converting and checking the string nil or not, double, integer, bool. There was one another method I will just try to make you remember. Like if I have to create one model here, you know, so this was one of the old ways by which we used to do the parsing and serialization. So now the new way to do is called as the JSON encoder and decoder, and it is used with the models which are marked with codable protocols. So it can be either codable marked with codable protocol, or it can be marked with the encodable or decodable, depending upon if it's a request or response. So we'll get into that again. Before jumping into that, we need to see one more thing. Just an example. So what I'll be doing here is I'll be directly hitting one service from view controller, and for that I just went to the internet and randomly, I'm not advertising anyone here, but I randomly saw this dummy JSON on my online search. So if you see this service, I click on show output, I get this result. So I'm going to use the same service here. So this is the request and this is the response. Also, I can convert the request response into equalable Swift format. There are many Xcode plugins also available. At the same time, many online tools are also available, just like this one. It is up to your choice which way you want to use it. So for request, I'll copy this. I'll go back. The first thing what I'll do is I'll create one model here. Pick this one. I prefer to have separate instead of comma because I feel comfortable seeing all the values separately. It's up to your choice. If you like it that way, you can use that way. So this is the request data. Similarly, we can have the response data. Okay, so let me go back here and I'll copy the response here. Okay, so it has given me this thing. I'll copy it from here, go back, paste here. Okay, so this is my user login model where I have this as my request and this as my response. So now let me create one new file. So the first thing which we want to do here is we want to create a user session to hit the service. I'm sorry, it's URL session. Okay, dot shared dot. I'll use the completion handler one. So here, first will be data. It will also return a response, and then return error as well, if in case it is there. So for URL, I will say URL as parameter, and I'll pass URL here. So let me create an instance of request, which would be like URL request. Okay, wait, I should mark it equals to. Yeah, now I have the URL here. I can put this here. So I have my request here. Okay, so this is how we are going to hit the request. But let me first make the post request. So in this, we have HTTP method, we have HTTP body, and then we have add value. So add value would be like the application JSON, and this would be content type. Okay, HTTP method would be post, and HTTP body I will create on var the JSON. Basically in HTTP body my request will go, and this request I need to encode it. So whatever data is coming in key and value form in an array, I need to encode that data. So for that, I will use encoder equals to JSON encoder, and then I'll say here as encoder dot encode, and value would be like I'll create one parameter here for request as well, request data, and this will be my user login model dot request data, and I'll put request data here. So this will throw an error, so I'll mark it with try, and then put this into to catch, so that in case if any error is thrown, I can catch it here. Catch would be associated. This is called as associated value here. So error print. Oh, sorry. Error. Okay, and this piece of code I'll put inside the do block. Okay, so what does the error say? It says instant method encode requires user login request data to confirm with the encodable protocol. So which means, and hence it is proved, that if you want to encode the data through JSON encoder, any model you want to encode, in that case you need to mark that model as encodable. Encodable is a part of encodable and decodable together makes a codable protocol. So what I need to do here is I'll go back to the user login model. and the request data. So let me first put Codable here, and let's see what is inside the Codable. So if you see here, Codable is a type alias for the combination of decodable and encodable. You can make your own type alias, like my Codable, something like this. And similarly, like it has been done here, you can say, okay, my will be like, my Codable will be like this, and it will be like hashable, and it will be like identifiable. So you can create your custom Codable as well. But for now, let's focus on this. So here it is, even though this will also work, if we go back to the service invoker, you see that the error has gone. So even Codable will work because Codable is a combination of encodable and decodable, but the best practice would be to use the encodable specifically for the request. So anything which is going as a request will be encoded. Similarly, anything which is coming as a response should be decoded. So encoding means it is converted into some format which is understood by the system. And that format is like, it is decided between the system what kind of format they are following. So here, this is the response data. So when a response comes, even if I write Codable here, it will work for this. But a better way would be to write decodable like this for response. So always remember this thing. For request data, you need to put encodable, and for response data, you need to put decodable. There are a few conditions where you have to put the combination of this, and it comes into picture when something is happening in your function which requires encodable and decodable both. And you don't want to segregate your generics differently. Like sometimes people create, when you're creating a generic function and you're passing as a generic parameter, so sometimes people create T as encodable and U as decodable, and sometimes they don't prefer to do this. So in that case, if you're passing only one generic, then you would use Codable for that. Okay, so we'll see that in the we'll see this in the generic section when I will make a video on that. I'm sorry. So let's go back to the service invoker. So this is my URL request, and you can make this as a separate HTTP request in a separate file or class. This is just for the demo purpose I'm writing here. Now we have a request, the request is going, and now it has hit the data. URL, I will do it from this, let's mark here from the, let me put it here only. So I'll say, okay, so this is service invoker dot invoke login, where URL would be this one. Okay, here, oh, got copy, copy, copy. Okay, so this is my URL. My request data would be user login model. I would say user login model. I'm not getting that. Okay, I'm sorry. It is request data, and then I will pass the username and password here. Let me take the same data which is here. I'm not sure if I pass other thing, like if I pass sorb here, the data is going to come or not. We'll see that. But for now, let me keep the data same. Okay. So this is my URL. I need to mark this with URL. This will be string. Okay. X. Yeah. Okay, let me compile this. Okay, everything's okay. So let's go back here in the URL session. And now here, once we get the response, what we have to do is like we did the encoding here, we have to do decoder. We have to decode the response here. So for this, we'll be using JSON decoder.decode, and I will have my response here as maybe I will I'll use. You must have heard about the result type. So I'll be using here this result type with the completion closure. Okay, result. So this is a custom given by the Apple. So before result type, we used to make our own success and failure like objects to catch the success and failure. But since this is inbuilt and this is very good and it saves a lot of code, so you can put your user model dot response data here and then error here. And since this is a closure, let me return void from it and put this into bracket. Okay, it will be expecting response after some time. So let me mark it with escaping. Okay, so here we can say that user login model dot response data. We need to decode this one. And since it will return an error, let me mark with a try. And let me say resp equals to this one, and I have to put it into do and catch block. Catch block. Let me put inside the catch block. Sorry, do block. Okay, so here I have my, oh, what is this? From data. Okay, so this is missing. Okay, I need to declare this with self. And why I'm declaring this with self? Because decode expects to because what decode is asking here is for the type. So what is the type? The type is user login dot response data. So this self is not the current context. It is the type. It is telling that this is a type of user login response data. Again, this is very interesting to know. Self dot self, self with big S and self with small s. There is a I wouldn't say it's a big difference, but there are differences in it, and there are ways to use it. It's very interesting, and if you know it, it is a very good thing to know as far as Swift is concerned. So we will cover this in. I'm planning to uh, make a short video on this after this Codable protocol video. So we'll see this into that. Okay, so in catch, so what I can do now here is how I can use result type is I could say once the result is back, my completion will be here. If it comes here, it's a success. Okay, and I will say this as my resp, and here, if it comes here, this means that, oh, sorry, it's not a success. In fact, it's a failure. Maybe I'll say error. Okay, maybe error. It's here error. So now we have our request, we have our URL session, and one more important thing which many times developers forget is that this function will still not work even though everything is correct. It is because we need to write dot resume here. If it is not written, it will not work. Okay, so let me compile this. Oh, it works fine. I'm just thinking about this. It's typed here. Some error. So let me put my debugger first here, and then let me put it here. Let's run this. Okay, it has come on the service invoker call. So let me step in. I'll come to the encoder. I'll reach the URL session. And now I will hit the service. Let's see what happens. The response has come. You can see I've received the data and the response as well. There is no error. So probably it will go to success. Okay. So let me go here. It will come to the success. And let's see what does it print. Print. So I have received the data as expected. Okay. So you see here that this proves that this encodable and decodable have worked correctly here. The request got correctly encoded, and then the response got correctly decoded. So the idea to understand here is whenever we are sending a request, whenever we are sending something to the server from this side, so we need to encode it. Or in the other words, you can say wherever we are using JSON encoder, we need to encode that model. And wherever we are decoding something, then we need to mark that model as decodable. Okay, so let's check some interesting facts here that how it is done actually. Let's go to okay, let me check if this fails or not. If I put here Saurabh, what happens here? So it was not able to identify the Saurabh name. Change this name. Let me run it again. So you can see that the ID has come as 15. So in that case, it was not able to find an ID with the name Saurabh in the server. Okay, so now we have checked this both conditions. Let's go into the model here. So you see we have a request data here and a response data here. So what we can do here is, if it gives suggestion, now we don't have to write this much of code. So if I say control space, you will see that there are some coding keys here. Okay, if I click on this, it creates this enum for us. Earlier we used to write this code, but I think after Xcode 14, I believe yes, Xcode 14, we were able to do this thing. Again, if I go and I click control space here, I'll get this decoder initializer. So let me put a debugger here and let's see how this works. Okay, I'll run the code again. So you see, it came here. Now from here it will go here. So now it is doing the same thing which I told you here, which we used to do in our earlier ways, like here and like in the JSON helper. It used to come every time here. After serialization, we were parsing the objects one by one. Similar thing is happening here, and this happens automatically. So you see, if I see this, self.id is empty right now, but when I say like this, see, it has got the value. So this is basically mapping the value to our objects. If I say self.first name, you can see GN, it is there. So this is what we do with this function. We can modify this also. We'll see how, in which conditions we can modify this. We'll go to a playground, we'll create a custom JSON, and we'll try to do something which is very different, like the JSON is not stable. Then how can we use this part to handle an unstable JSON? Okay, so we'll come to that part at the end. So before that, I want to talk about the coding keys as well. So let's go to the coding keys. Okay, so basically what it does is that it maps the response keys to these keys. So in case the name is different, it might throw error. So let me say here ASD, and here it will be ASD. Again here the ASD. Okay, let me run this now. So you see, it has thrown error for ASD because when this was sending the response like this, it tried to find out the username, but instead it got ASD. So it was not able to identify this. Okay. So how can we resolve such a problem? So if we go back to the service invoker here, and if we see here in the JSON decoder, so let me write as var, maybe here I'll write var decoder equals to JSON decoder. And let me write decoder here. So decoder dot decoding strategy. This means that what kind of strategy you are going to follow. Originally, it is default. Oh, sorry, this is state decoding strategy. I need to have the key decoding strategy. My bad. I'm sorry for that. So this is the use the default keys. This means whatever keys are there, you can use those default keys. Let me run this and see what happens. So we have the same error. So this is the default behavior. Now, if I have to map it, maybe, so what should I do here? I'll go back to the user model and I will say case ASD equals to username. Okay, so what's this? Value raw type. Okay, so we need to declare string here. I think it should go now. Yeah. So let's run this now and let's see what happens. We have the expected result. So because of this is a default decoding strategy, and we have told that okay, if the model name is not matching through coding keys, I will assign this string to this key, and this will act on this behalf. This name will act on this behalf. So this is the way how I can map the response key. The other thing is what happens if I go to service invoker back and I say I need the convert from snake case. To demonstrate the key decoding strategy as snake case, I have downloaded this code from the internet. Again, I'm not advertising this code. I've just downloaded it for you all to see because it has a different service and it has that snake case response. So it is made by some Tarindu. So let me check this URL. It's a get service basically. And I've already checked it once. So let me do it again. So if you see here, we are getting response fields like per underscore page, first underscore name. Okay, and if we go to their models, the actual name is per page. The actual name is total pages. So how we have handled it, like it's an old way to handle, like equals to. In the coding key, we are making it equal to the actual field. So let's see if this works or not. If we are getting the response or not. Yes. So we do get the response here. So this thing works. What happens if I don't map this field to the actual names? Let's check now. You can see there are nil values and it is not throwing an error because it's optional fields. So what do we do here? So this is where a key decoding strategy comes into picture. And what we will do is we just have to use decoder's key decoding strategy as convert to snake case. So what this will do is it will automatically map the response snake case field um, with the model name. Let me run this now. You can see the result has come. So this is the use of decoding strategy. in case of snake case. Let's go back to our own project now. So there is one more thing which we can do with this is, let me add one more field which is not there in the response. Maybe I'll add a user ID here and mark it with string. So this user ID is not there in the response. If you see here, it is not there in the response. Okay. So let's see what happens. It is asking me to initialize it. So user ID. Okay. Let's check what happens. So you can see that it has thrown the error because it has found nil in that field key. It could not find the key with that name. So it was not able to map it while decoding it, and which is why it has thrown the error. So what can we do in this case? What Apple says is there is a way out of it. Like if you want to use these two fields, you don't want to use the elevation here, you can create an additional coding key enum, and then you can create one separate container, and in that container you can decode that value. This is one solution, but a better, I won't say a better one, but I'm more comfortable with that. So what you can do is you can just declare this as optional. So when you declare this as optional, here you can see it is writing container.decode. So in this case, since this field has been marked as optional, you can write this as decode if present. Okay. So what this field does is, if it is present, then well and good. If it's not present, it will just ignore it. Okay. If present. Okay. Let's check this now. And we have the expected result. Okay, so one more piece of information that I want to share out with you regards to these protocols is that only those structures or model or structures can be marked with decodable, encodable, or codable if the fields used inside those structures are also conforming to these protocols. And by default, the string, integer, double, they all conform to the codable protocol. So even if you make your custom model here, like my custom data, and I say, okay, my field is for QUEUEQ, it is string, and I create one field here, let uh, uh, QUEUEQ equals to my custom data. So this will also work, and you will be able to decode this if it is coming in response like this in nested format. So still it will get decoded because the field used inside this nested model is string, which is again confirming to the decodable protocol. Okay, so this is it. So there are a lot of things you can do with this. You can play around. I will post this code on the GitHub. You can go and download from there and play around this code. So one more thing which I told in the beginning is that what happens if the JSON is not in the correct format, or maybe it is not in a consistent format. So how do we handle those cases? And which is where this thing becomes very important in that case, the containers. So through these, we are going to handle those inconsistent JSON. We'll go to the playground. We have a custom JSON there. So we are now into the playground. And if you see this JSON, this is a custom JSON which I have written. Uh, there is a book object, and then there is a relevant library object, then again a book and library object. But if you closely observe that this library object is quite different from this library object, it is because this is an array of dictionaries and this is just a dictionary. Even if this would have been like this would have been correct, but it is not like this, which means it is not strongly typed. This object is not strongly typed. It doesn't have any type specific. So this happens a lot of time. I've seen in many projects. So many time it happens that the backend people don't fix it because when the project is big, there are many dependent teams. So any fix made at one place will require fixes at many other uh, many other teams to fix at their end, uh, and which would require to raise a lot of tickets, and it could take a lot of time and effort for fixing a small thing. So there might be a situation where the backend guys will say, okay, can you do this at your end? So your answer should be yes, it can be done. And how it can be done, we'll see this now. So I've created the equivalent, uh, this model for this JSON just to save time. And I'm trying to print here the name of all the library locations, like 1, 2, 3 locations, Mumbai, Moscow, Pune. Let me print this out and see what is happening. If you see here that there is an error and it says that expected to decode an array but found a dictionary instead. So here it is trying to decode an array. So when it would have first met this one, it would have executed, but when it would have met this one, it threw an error because this is a dictionary and it is expecting an array. So what is the solution for this? A very simple solution for this is, let me mark this with 2, catch. Okay, so now I will create one new object here and I'll say let new dictionary library equals to this, where it will check with the library. So what this code will do, if there is an error with the array, we know that the other object is a dictionary. So it will go here and it will decode this part as a dictionary here and assign it to new dictionary library. And then what we can do is we can say self dot library equals to this dictionary. Okay, so this is a dictionary and this is an array. So to make it equal, I will put this dictionary into an array. That's it. Now they are equals. Let's execute this and now check what is the output. Yes, we have the output here. So this is how you can resolve such uh, inconsistencies, into the containers. So this was all from this, and I have written what I have covered here. There is one more topic which is called as property list encoder and decoder. Since the size of this video has gone too large, so I will take this as a separate video, probably in coming week. And I would like to request you that if you like this video, or you please go ahead and like it and subscribe it and do comment and give me your feedback that what better I could have done on this video. What are other ways to do such things like we saw here and in other examples as well. What else we can add here? Your suggestions are always welcome and we can share the knowledge and gain something more, so that when I make any other part of it, I will include those things into my video. So thank you very much for watching this video. Have a good day.